everybody. Lovely to see you all. I am just going to invite Kel in when I remember how to do it. I can do this. At Kel. There we go. Invite. And hopefully she'll join. Lovely to see you all. Here's Kel. Hi, Kel. How are you doing?
Hi, Emma. How are we doing?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you.
Good. Let me switch off my noise over this way. Lovely to see everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. I've got a few house rules and things to run through before we kick started, if that's okay. So I'm Emma, for those that don't know me. I'm the National Officer for BEAT in Scotland. And I'm really excited. I'm absolutely over the moon to be delighted this evening by Kel, who's one of our brilliant ambassadors. She's one of our campaigners, and she's also a psychotherapist. We're going to be chatting about Kel's experience as an ambassador and also her recovery, more importantly, so we can all learn a bit from that, and why she's supporting our campaign for Eating Disorder Week this year, rather. So for those of you who don't know, currently the average GP receives less than 2 hours training on eating disorders, their entire medical training degree. 1 in 5 UK medical schools don't provide any training on eating disorders at all. So we believe that all our future GPs and all our future medics should be given the knowledge and practical skills that they need to understand eating disorders. And I'm sure that's something everybody out there would agree with. We want them to be able to identify when somebody may be presenting with a potential eating disorder, communicate with them compassionately, and get them the appropriate help as early as possible. So we're calling for all our UK medical schools to implement proper training on eating disorders. So just before we get started, a couple of house rules. We're not giving any medical advice this morning, so no clinical, no medical advice. We won't be able to answer any questions that are specific around that or specific around your individual treatment and that side of things. Please seek help from your GP in the first instance, and we'll come on to talk a wee bit about that and your experience of that, Kel, in a wee while. Don't forget, our helpline is open this evening, so if you feel triggered in any way, give our helpline a call or DM them. They're there for you and always willing to support. We'd also appreciate in the chat, and we won't be doing it if there's no mention of numbers, so no numbers of weight, calorie, that sort of thing. Amount of exercise. Some people find that figures are really triggering, so we don't want to be doing that. And then finally, we'll regularly signpost to BEAT and our support services throughout the chat, so you can see where to get that. If you're struggling, as I said earlier, just DM us or give the helpline a call. So we're here for you. So we'll get started, Kel, if that's okay. Have you had a lovely day?
Absolutely. Well, I've been having like a beat heavy day today because I did another beat event earlier today, and then I had a chat to the member of staff that looks after us as ambassadors, and then I got some food, and then here I am.
Here you are talking to me for your evening. But we won't keep you all evening, so fear not.
No, you can keep me all evening if you like. I love talking to you, Emma.
So let's kick start. Can you cast your mind back to when you were first struggling with your eating disorder and when you first went to your GP? How was that for you? What did it feel like? What was your GP experience, so to speak?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting thing to reflect on, because it's really easy to look back knowing the overall reality of the experience that I had in terms of treatment and automatically kind of put a negative frame on it. But I feel like if I'm being as unbiased as possible, I think I probably had a pretty neutral experience of my GP, to be honest, in the sense that the first time I went to my GP to express some concerns about my mental health, and we're talking quite a long time ago, might I add, the GP was fine. That's probably the best word I could use. She was responsive to what I was saying, but maybe didn't have the knowledge that she needed that could have meant that at that point of contact, that very first time I went to the doctors, it could have been I'd got a diagnosis and got a referral right away. So she didn't say anything offensive or triggering, and I didn't feel dismissed, but nor did I really get very much from that first interaction. I had to go back a couple of times until I got referral to an eating disorder service. And actually, I ended up needing to take somebody else with me who could more forcefully advocate for me than I was capable of doing. That being said, absolutely wasn't a negative experience, and I still see the same GP now, such a long time later. But I've got a lot better at advocating for myself over the years as well.
So that's really interesting that you had to take somebody with you, because I know we've got a great leaflet on our website. So if you're struggling, don't know how to go to your GP, that's something people can look up on our website. But did you realise that yourself, or did your friend or whoever it was that went with you, did they say, why don't I come with you? And what was it that they said that was different for you, that got the point across better to your GP? What can we share with our people that are tuning in this evening? What would help that conversation?
Yeah, they definitely realised. It was actually also the person that first indicated to me that they had some concerns about me. And I mean, I'm talking about when I was 18 years old, so I'm well into my 30s now, so it was some time ago. And I didn't understand very much about mental health at the time, and I hadn't really got any concept of what an eating disorder was. So this person had expressed some concern about me and encouraged me to go to my GPs, and I'd gone on my own in the first instance. And then as they saw things continuing to deteriorate and me say, like, I went to the GP, they didn't do anything. They decided, they called the GP and made the appointment and came and got me and took me to the appointment and was like, look, Kel's really got a problem here. I've watched the deterioration of this. Can you please do something about it? And that was what instigated the referral to eating disorder services.
That's great. And it's really nice to know that you've got a friend that is looking out for you in that way. So I think there'll be lots of people there that will have friends looking out for them. And it's something to bear in mind that maybe they're the one that can advocate for you at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think probably the main thing that I've learned as I've recovered, as I've become a professional myself, as I've had to advocate for myself in other health related ways over the years, is that kind of direct request is really what is best suited to that, like, literal few minutes of a time slot that you get with a GP. So for somebody going in who is struggling and you don't really have the words, and maybe you're not able to verbalize what it is you're experiencing very succinctly, that's obviously not going to get the best out of that type of interaction, whereas the other person was able to kind of go with a specific request, which I think was what made the difference.
Great. And then during your recovery, when you come across all these range of different health professionals, was there something that one of them said to you that really made a difference? Or was there something that somebody said to you that was awful? Because we might have health professionals tuning in this evening. So, you know, what is it? And how did you approach that with them, saying that's not helpful? Or did you ignore it? What was your learning from that?
Yeah, so I definitely had the whole gamut of experiences over the years. I had some really negative experiences where I didn't feel like I was taken seriously. I know in particular something that I found very triggering was when a health professional said to me that I wasn't that severe, which was based on my body weight, when in all reality, I and the people that loved me knew how much I was struggling, how distressed I was on a moment by moment basis. And that kind of, that stereotype that the severity of your eating disorder is attached to your weight, unfortunately really perpetuated a downturn into my eating disorder for me. In terms of maybe a more positive experience, we'll go there next.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is like not just the defining moment of my eating disorder recovery, but it's also why I ended up becoming a therapist myself as well. Was that after a number of years of not feeling, unfortunately, very helped by the services that were available locally to me via the NHS, I did access private therapy. And I went to meet the private therapist that I ended up working with, that I still work with 15 years later. And she asked me a question about why. Can you explain to me why this is happening? What's brought you to this point? And I felt like what she wanted was to hear my experience, to hear what I was feeling or what had situationally happened to me, rather than just seeing me as my diagnosis or as the physical reality of what it was that I was experiencing. And it was such a turning point in terms of me feeling like I was going through services and not getting better, and that this was all about my physical health and nobody really understood, to literally within that kind of very first therapy appointment feeling like, oh my God, there's actually a possibility that I might be able to get better from this. And I actually very quickly got better past that point as well.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think we hear that quite a lot in Beat, and I think we need to share that message more, that it's when a health professional says, what is it you need? Or what is it that you're finding? Or what is it for you? You know, that you tune in at that point, and that's what helped you recover.
Yeah.
And it's that simple question. So for any clinicians that are listening or watching, or feed that back to clinician, it's about asking about what you need. What do you need in your recovery? Yeah. Can I check, Kel, did you, I'm not sure, Beat was probably around at that point, but maybe not offering quite the same support that we offer now. And you've been part of Beat for a long time. So for those of you who don't know, I'm so happy to say that this is almost Kel's 15-year anniversary of her recovery. And you've been a Beat ambassador for how long?
For just over 14 of those years.
Amazing, completely amazing. What is it that Beat's offered you for that recovery?
Well, as you say, Beat wasn't around in the way that it's around today, 15 years ago. And so definitely not 19, 20 years ago at the start of my eating disorder. And I think we only really became aware of them as we started clutching at straws, in all reality. And I'm aware from having been involved with some of the kind of carer sessions and things that you presently offer that unfortunately sometimes that's still often the case. That's the point when people go beyond accessing care via the obvious channel, which is going to the GP, and start looking at kind of helplines and things. And my at the time partner called the helpline when we were kind of at a loss, really. We were not getting anywhere with the care that was being made available to us, and we didn't really know what our options were. And I believe, I would have to go check with him, we're not together anymore, but we are still friends, and he was also an ambassador for a while.
Okay.
And he, I'm pretty sure, called the helpline, and that was who suggested looking at private options, which was what instigated a plethora of emails looking for somebody in private practice, which brought me to the wonderful therapist that we've already mentioned.
Ah, okay. So you're also supporting our campaign this year, which is campaigning for better medical training and more than 2 hours training. You've come along to some of our webinars and our campaign webinars, and them, how helpful have they been in what you need when campaigning for better medical provision?
I think it's really helpful, mostly from a reassurance perspective. When you use that word campaigning, it sounds like you're asking this huge thing of us, and that we're going to be like with our placards outside of Parliament. And that's not to say that we haven't done that over the years, because we absolutely have. But for the most part, the majority of people that get involved in campaigning are going to be doing so by sharing the message on social media, by maybe talking to their MP, or talking, perhaps in this instance, to medical professionals that they know, sharing the information at their local GP practice, those types of things. And to kind of stop and have that conversation, to have you come along and talk to us about what it might involve, I think makes it sound like a more doable thing, rather than where do I start, what am I supposed to do, what does this mean, what are you asking of me. And also just, I mean, obviously I've been around for a while, and I've been doing it for a while, and I still came on to the webinar that was last week to just touch base as well with other people that are doing the same thing, because it can sometimes feel like you're kind of out on a limb on your own. And the reality of this is that there are, I think, thousands of signatures already on the call to action this time.
I think there are. I know I work for Beat, and I still find campaigning quite scary, and thinking, oh my God, it's this thing with a placard and I've got to go and start a campaign somewhere. But actually that's not what it's like. It's really simple to do. So if you've not checked out, look on our website. We have information about how to campaign. Click through. It's just as simple as sending a letter to your MSP because we're in Scotland, or your MP, or your member of Welsh Assembly, or your MLA in Northern Ireland. So you can send an open letter to campaign and just encourage more than 2 hours training for our medical professionals, or and then further on down the line we'll do more. We're actually got a webinar tomorrow evening for medical students about how they can campaign within their university and what they can do. So if anybody's on there wants to join us for that, we'll be delighted to see you. Again, the information's on our website and you can sign up for that. And you think it makes a difference, right, campaigning?
Yeah, I think it can be sometimes, especially when I think about how long we've been fighting for certain changes, it can feel a little bit draining sometimes to be repeating the same messages and to only see like minimal fractions of change. But that's just the political reality, the financial reality of the world that we live in. But I've absolutely had conversations with my own MP a few times over the years, and I have seen significant change from previous campaigns. So hopefully this is going to be the start of some significant change for medical students training.
I hope so. I really hope so. And I think we are beginning to see that change, that universities are wanting to talk to us and want to engage with our e-learning packages that we have, and hopefully improve all that training for them, which is just amazing. If you've got one takeaway tip for a medical professional around supporting somebody with an eating disorder, so it might be a GP, it could be not necessarily an eating disorder specialist, a cardiologist or gastro, or just a medical on a medical ward, or in part of the primary care team, what would that one takeaway tip be for them?
Yes, I've kind of already said it.
Yeah.
It would be to see a patient as a person, not as a diagnosis.
Yeah, and I think see them as that person, not think about them as that weight or underweight or overweight or any of that. It's about the person as a whole. So thinking about their social, thinking about their physical, that the whole what's the word that we use for it? The whole person, and taking the whole person approach rather than just thinking about them as one thing. I think that's right. And if you're saying to somebody who's going to the GP for the first time, we spoke about this a wee bit earlier as well, going with a friend, if you get any other tips for them, the type of language they might want to use or how they might want to put it across, what would your tip be for that?
I personally feel like it's helpful to have a look what services are available to you locally before you go to the GPs, because I didn't understand at the point that I was accessing my GP hoping for a referral that my GP literally didn't even know what the referral pathway was, and she had to like go away and find out before she could even refer me. So to know what it is that you can be referred to local to you, I think is a good piece of information, potentially even to have it in hand if they've got a website and you can print the information, because then you know what you can be asking for and or expecting. I know in terms of my therapy practice, something that I offer my clients if they're kind of feeling scared about going and talking to the GP, if they've maybe come to private therapy first, which sometimes people do, is I might write them a letter or write something down with them, or they may just print some information about eating disorders and take that with them as a way to open the conversation, because it can be pretty scary, especially if you're really struggling to sit down and say to somebody, hey, I've got a problem with this. So that might just be like, take a sticky note with some information on it, or take a person with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I think, and I'm writing that down because it is really scary to verbalize it. And when you hear yourself say it, sometimes that's even more challenging. So writing it down helps get it out on paper and helps get it out of you as well. I think that's a great tip. How's recovery been for you? How's the last 15 years been for you, Kel?
They've been a lot. It's kind of crazy to reflect on like baby Kel when I very first came to a beat event as an ambassador. I can still exactly remember getting on the train from Cheshire and coming down to London and coming to a beat ambassador event. And I can even tell you it was in December and it was absolutely chucking it down. And I remember I was almost a year into recovery at that point, and I was doing okay. But I think the longer I've been in recovery, the more I've...
Oh no, we've lost Kel. I'm hoping Kel's going to rejoin.
Oh, it's froze. I'm back.
Yay!
Shall we pick up where I left off? That personal development continues past that point where you might be medically deemed as recovered, and I've definitely continued to grow past that point. And I remember coming along to that very first thing, and I was so quiet and I didn't know a huge amount about what I might be able to get involved in with BEAT, or what long-term recovery was going to look like for me, or whether it was even possible. And in many ways, having been an ambassador has played a huge part in my recovery, because it gave me a place where it felt safe, because obviously you all know about eating disorders. I could kind of learn to be myself again. I could learn to talk publicly about things. It was okay to be like, hey, I'm struggling if I was at an event and didn't feel up to it. And there was always support around. And that really helped my confidence grow. So much so that by the time I finished university, I started teaching, which I'm pretty sure that my lecturers fell off their chair to see the change from me when I was struggling and I was so quiet to who I am today. And you know what I'm like, I can talk about everything, anything all day. And during that period of time, I've gone through many things during that period of time, just like we all do. Life is not necessarily regularly easy.
No.
But I'm glad to say that throughout all of those 14, almost 15 years, I've never relapsed. I've had some wobbles in the early days, but I've never relapsed. And I truly mean it when I say I'm fully recovered from my eating disorder. I don't have any eating disorder thoughts. And bearing in mind that I now work as a therapist, working specifically with eating disorders, which means that I'm having eating disorder type conversations almost every day. So that kind of feels like that should be the most vulnerable place for me to put myself. And so if I can be recovered within the confines of the life that I've chosen for myself, absolutely possible for everybody else to recover too.
That's absolutely amazing, Kel. That's incredible, and I hope a real inspiration out there, because I think you know, in Beat, we find you an inspiration because of that recovery journey you've been on, and that how you support so many people is just amazing. So well done, congratulations. It's just brilliant and so inspiring, and so gives out so much hope to other people out there that maybe are struggling just now. So final question. If someone's struggling out there and they don't feel they can get support from their GP, what should they do?
They have a whole bunch of options depending on what they're hoping for, wanting for, ready for. They can obviously use Beat's helpline or the chat rooms or any of the other support services available here. If they need to go to their GPs but they're finding that that's too scary, absolutely take somebody with you. Gear up to it. Another option, if your GP in particular is challenging for you to talk to for some reason, is to start by going and making an appointment with a practice nurse instead. She might not, I'm saying she, might be he, it's usually in my practice it's a she. She might be able to have a conversation with the GP and arrange a referral if you feel more comfortable with them for some reason. Beyond that, obviously I'm going to advocate for private therapy being an option, given that I'm a private therapist, and that was also what worked for me. If you're having ongoing problems with your GP, which I know is something sometimes clients express to me if I'm maybe encouraging them to go access additional services, is bear in mind that you don't have to see the GP that is named on your record. You can try seeing a different GP. So if you would prefer a male or a female or somebody younger or somebody older or just somebody else in your practice, or if you absolutely have to move practice to find somebody that's going to ensure that you get the care that you need. But that being said, there are lots of charity options with Beat and other charities as well that have all expanded throughout the pandemic. So we're kind of in the best situation we've ever been, I feel like, in terms of options for people.
I think that's right. And Beat is a really helpful help finder on their website. So you can look at the help finder, put in your postcode, and it will bring up options of different support in your area, which is really, really helpful as well. But I think that thought of going to your practice nurse perhaps in the first instance rather than your GP is a really good one. Sometimes your appointments with the practice nurse is longer than you would get with the GP, so it just gives you that time to chat a bit more. So I think that's a really good tip, a really great tip. So
some GPs will also let you book a double appointment. That's a little bit more challenging at the moment with the whole kind of pandemic recovery process. But I think if you push enough or get somebody to push on your behalf, that might make it a little bit easier as well.
Definitely, definitely. Kel, that has been so helpful. There has been so many little golden nuggets in there that I hope people can take away. So taking somebody with you, writing it down, looking at the Beat website, seeking out support, checking in with support with your friends and family. There's been lots and lots of little bits in there that people can learn from. So this is all recorded and we'll be keeping it on our Beat Instagram, so people can go back and watch it and hear those golden nuggets in case they've missed some. I would just like to thank you so much for coming this evening, Kel. It's been brilliant.
No problem.
It's lovely talking to you as always. It's always nice to catch up with you.
Same goes for you.
And I hope you have a lovely evening, because I'm going to close the session now. I hope it's been helpful for everyone that's been here and listening in. We've recorded it, as I've said, so it'll be on the Instagram roll. If you're feeling inspired, please do get involved with our Eating Disorder Awareness Week this year. Join our campaign, which you'll find more information about in our bio. And just a reminder for anybody out there that's struggling, tonight, tomorrow, the weekend, whenever, our helpline is available. We're open until midnight. 9 a.m. tomorrow morning is when we open back up again. So 9 a.m. till midnight, Monday to Friday, 4 p.m. till midnight at the weekends and bank holidays. You can call us, DM us, and just give us a chat give us some time for a chat. We're always here for anybody. So thanks very much, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Lovely to see you, Kel, and we'll catch up soon.
You too, Emma. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.